All right, Canada, we need to talk about these ongoing protests that are erupting across Canada, but specifically on university campuses. It's getting out of control. They've been asked to leave, and when the press comes back or when anyone with a camera comes back after they've been asked to leave, there's twice as many people. So I recommend you stick around for the full video because there is a lot of content to cover today. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I do want to encourage everyone to smash the like button and subscribe if you haven't yet already. It does really help grow the channel. We're living in a wacko world with a wacko prime minister. If you haven't already seen them, I've got these super awesome stickers, limited edition, linked down in the description. Wacko has to go. And who knows what this wacko is going to do next, which is why you have to take the appropriate steps to protect yourself. Protect yourself online, that is, with a VPN. My favorite VPN, Private Internet Access, who just so happens to have sponsored today's video. I want to thank today's sponsor, Private Internet Access. We have teamed up together and they are willing to offer my audience 83% off by using code SUNSHINE, which can be found linked down in the description or the pinned comment below. There is a massive amount of censorship that's happening around the world, and Justin Trudeau is taking it into his own hands, which is why you need to protect yourself with a VPN. Now, what a VPN does is encrypts your personal information so that when you're browsing on different websites, your info isn't shared. It's almost a way of putting a cloak over yourself, and the favorite way that I go about doing this is with Private Internet Access. Even when it comes to simple things like getting the right information from the news, there is massive amounts of censorship happening. And the only way that you can really get an unbiased opinion is with a VPN. But above and beyond that, if you want to get different shows and movies on different platforms such as Netflix or Disney, and there's these geolocation restrictions, the only really way around that is with a VPN such as Private Internet Access. Not only can you do that from a computer or a tablet, but you can also do that from your phone, which is why Private Internet Access is the best way that I like to go about it. It's user-friendly, it's very affordable, and it's a best way of saying F you to the government. Once again, the link for Private Internet Access and code SUNSHINE is linked down in the description or the pinned comment below. And just remember, the government doesn't want you to hide your identity, but you should take the matter into your hands. And that's why Private Internet Access and I have teamed up to offer you guys 83% off. Thank you, Private Internet Access, for sponsoring today's video. All right, let's take a look at all of this footage and kind of dissect what is happening with these protests. First up, we've got Karima Saad, who has got some footage at the University of Toronto of this person who's overly excited going down the road on a skateboard. This is kind of funny.
Oh, yeah!
Oh, yeah.
Whoa, 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 whoa! Yeah, yeah, yeah! Yeah! Hey, I didn't even...
How are you? What brings you to the neighborhood?
Well, here's the thing. When people ask, what side are you on? My response is, I'm on the side of rock and roll, baby.
I'm on this side of rock and roll. I gotta say, that's the best answer for what side are you on for these ongoing protests. That is, kudos to that individual. That is pretty awesome. But back to the seriousness of what's going on here. This is the McGill encampment, and it remains after Quebec Premier calls it illegal. It's been deemed illegal, not just anti-Semitic by Justin Trudeau himself in the past, but it's actually been deemed illegal, and it's doubled in size.
Show you what was the first to really spring up. This is the McGill encampment, and it's getting very close to 1 full week in now. Quebec Premier François Legault has weighed in and called the encampment at McGill illegal. He did stop short of demanding direct police action.
Right now, these encampments are illegal. So we have to respect law, and I want to make sure that the police officers make sure that the laws are respected.
Legault said it's up to Montreal police to decide when and how to proceed. A Quebec Superior Court judge rejected an injunction request on Wednesday that would force the protesters to pack up and leave. There was a strong police presence on campus yesterday, as we showed you live throughout the day, but they were mainly focused on keeping the peace because of dueling rallies by opposing groups. That's the backdrop. Now let's check in on what is happening this morning. Kobina Ojuro once again with us from just in front of the encampment. Kobina, you share with us and to show us around what is happening there on site today.
Heather, there is minimal police presence. So there is one police car on Sherbrooke, which is the main road downtown Montreal that McGill is on. And on the walkway, there is more campus security presence. They're just trying to make sure that things stay peaceful over here. Now, in terms of what the encampment looks like today, it is very quiet. People are just starting to wake up, but more signs outside the encampment, outside that barrier, have been starting to pop up. There's different people from different schools. So there's one sign that says UCAM for Palestine. There's Concordia students here. And I'm also here with a Concordia student who is Jewish. Her name is Ruby Belson. Ruby, thank you for joining me here today. How are you feeling about the encampment?
I am feeling very positive about the encampment. I think it's a very brave feat of these students to take on such a giant feat like it is a university. They are only the students, and it's so incredible to see their effort and what they are doing.
It's so incredible to continue protesting when it's been deemed illegal. Does that also mean that it was so incredible to see all of the freedom convoy, or is that an exception to the rule? It's just really freaking weird what's going on, man. This is what's pissing off a lot of people in the freedom community, a lot of patriots in Canada. Anybody who's really paying attention to what's happening in terms of politics here. You had a freedom convoy, and it's 2 years gone. Mr. Sunshine, why are you going to get over it? I don't know. I think the freedom convoy is forever going to linger just in the background, in the back of people's minds, and every now and then it's going to be used as a comparison benchmark for protests that people's freedoms got impeached on, where people got beat up, ground and pounded by the police, and then you have shit like this that is been deemed actually anti-Semitic. And I'm not going to say it's anti-Semitic. I don't know. A lot of people in the comments seem to think that. A lot of people out on the street seem to think it's anti-Semitic, calling for, X, Y, and Z. But it's a university. First and foremost, this is university campuses, and I'm pretty sure it's within the code of conduct that you can't bring politics to university. So right then and there, that's grounds for being expelled from the university. I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments. Should they be allowed to literally encamp themselves? Like, they don't have permits, right? There are no permits for this, to my understanding. It's just literally people coming in the hordes, setting up tents on grass patches and calling it a protest. It's very bizarre. So let me know down in the comments what you think. Next up, we have Harrison Faulkner, who works for True North, who is down at the UFT being escorted by a media escort who's part of these protests. They've got their own, you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of that thing in Portland, right? The Chaz or Chad or whatever the hell it was called, where they created their own village, their own country that lasted a few weeks, and a lot of crazy shit happened and the police just took it back. That's kind of what this reminds me of. Let's take a look at this. This is hilarious.
Go look at this. Well, it's just started raining, and I feel bad for people who have to subject themselves to the rain in a public protest. But we're now inside the encampment. We're one of the few media groups that have been allowed to walk inside here. Take a look at this here. Hi there, miss. And I have to say a couple of things. New tent. Actually, the majority of these tents are matching, believe it or not. They've got the gray and the blue on top. They look brand new. And another interesting thing, we're not allowed to walk around this public place, which is clearly being occupied by, whether it be a group of students, without a media escort. Here, this is Dakota, our media escort, and he's a nice fellow who's decided to walk with us wherever we go. But look, this is very strange, and a couple of interesting points I want to raise. The first is that we spoke to media spokespeople. They have confirmed that, in fact, not everyone in here is a U of T student. What a surprise, what a shock. And they've also said that, in their opinion, they wished it was open to the public. They wished that this entire gathering was not enclosed. It wasn't an enclosed space. But of course, they have been blocking us from entering this area for a few hours now. We've finally been able to get access into this encampment. And I guess they felt as though denying media access to a place which they have been, I would assume illegally occupying, probably didn't make any sense.
So there seems to be this ongoing bias from the media and from the government, where I think it's because they're afraid of being called racist or whatever it is, that they don't want to take the same actions that they did against quote unquote white people that were participating with the Freedom Convoy. They don't want to do that against these Palestinian protests because now all of a sudden it becomes about color, and you're discriminating against this group because it's about color. And it seems weird, man. Like, it just seems weird. They've been deemed anti-Semitic protests and gatherings. They've been deemed illegal by certain universities. So why isn't the government, why isn't the local police forces doing anything about it? I don't know. I'll pass the question off to you guys. What do you think? What possible reason could it possibly be? Next up, we have Jagmeet Singh, who's the best virtue signaler that Canada offers, who also is Canada's self-appointed cockroach. Here you go. Jagmeet Singh declares support for anti-Israel student protests. The NDP leader, who famously denounced the 2022 Freedom Convoy before it even arrived in Ottawa, made no mention of the violence that has broken out at the protests. So you have these tweets back from 2022, and I shared this on a previous video. I believe it was on Mr. Sunshine Extra, but we're going to take a look at it now. The convoy is occupying our nation's capital. This is a tweet from Jagmeet, okay, back from the Freedom Convoy, February 7th, 2022. The convoy is occupying our nation's capital. Donald Trump and the members of the alt-right have endorsed them. Foreign money is financing them. And a stated goal is to overthrow our democratically elected government. That is a clear threat to our democracy. Vote NDP, sign here. Fast forward to a few days ago, May 2nd, 2024. I stand in solidarity with students and anti-Israel advocates. Anti-war advocates. What's happening in the U.S. is very dangerous and alarming. In Canada, I want students to know this. It's your right to peacefully protest and be anti-Semitic. It doesn't say that. It's your right to peacefully protest, and I will defend that. New Democrats will continue to stand for peace and justice against Israel and Jewish students. New Democrats will continue to stand for peace and justice, for protection of your charter rights, and for ensuring that every student feels safe unless you are Jewish. And ensuring every student feels safe and welcome on campus. And I think that I misread almost identically to when I covered just this one tweet previously in another video on the Extra channel. It's getting out of hand, folks. It's getting out of hand. Look, man, I love protests, especially when they're against Justin Trudeau. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't be allowed to protest at all. I'm just here to cover the hypocrisy and the media bias and the new set of rules for certain groups of people, but not for others. It's just a damn shame that you don't have equality. I thought Canada was very progressive. I thought we all had the same rights. No, it turns out we don't. Let's take a look at this news station here. It says, dozens of tents set up for pro-Palestine protests at the University of Toronto despite fences. Interesting. Very, very interesting.
Good afternoon. Dozens of tents have been set up inside King's College Circle.
The school had fenced the area off to try to prevent demonstrations. CTV's Janice Golding joins us live from UFT this hour to bring us the very latest. Janice.
Hi, Michelle. Yes, demonstrators started arriving here in the pre-dawn hours, and by about 8 o'clock this morning, there were already about 100 people here. Now, if you take a look from our CTV News chopper, you can see that there are about 4 dozen tents that have been set up in the center of King's College Circle. The protest being widely discussed online on social media. The group Toronto for Palestine calling this the Solidarity Encampment. Now, the protesters say they're showing solidarity with the Palestinian people, and they're calling on the university to cut its ties with Israel as the war with Gaza continues. They're joining students across North America who have set up encampments on campus as they insist universities disclose connections with the Israeli government and divest from Israeli companies.
The University of Toronto has divested from South African apartheid. They've divested from fossil fuels. And so this is not something new. Students have been making this demand of this university since 2006.
I'm here with a large group of Jewish students and faculty members to really show our support, to challenge the ways in which questions of Jewish safety have been invoked, because this is a very safe space and Jewish people are very involved in supporting Palestinian solidarity and liberation.
The students' demands are really crucial in terms of the human rights struggles of our time, and really happy to be here to show support.
Meanwhile, the University of Toronto has issued a written statement to the media. It reads, "The university respects the rights of members of our community to assemble and protest within the limits of the law and U of T policies, but they must not interfere with the ability of students, faculty, librarians, and staff to learn, teach, research, and work on our campuses, or disrupt or impede other university activities. U of T's campuses remain open. Those who contravene university policy or the law risk the consequences set out in various laws and policies, such as the Code of Student Conduct, which could include suspension." Now, this week we have seen other pro-Palestinian encampments set up across North America and in Canada, specifically at universities in Montreal, London, Ottawa, and Vancouver.
And at almost every single one of these, if I am not mistaken, something violent has happened where they've broke tangible laws. But I mean, let's not cover that in the mainstream media, right? What you got going on in Montreal or Quebec, they're smashing stores. They're even in America. I don't know if it's happening in Canada, but in the United States, it's certainly happened where you have viral videos of Jewish students that can't even access their school because they're being personally blocked by these Palestinian protests. But good job, Jagmeet Singh, for saying, yeah, no, I support everyone's right to protest as long as it goes against the narrative, I suppose. It's very weird. It's weird that, like, every time something like this happens, you have people on the right or people that are conservative that have like a pretty unanimous stance, and then you have on the other side liberals and NEP have their stance. Like, just any protest about anything, you just already see that divide based off of values, based off of what's happening. It's kind of weird if you think about it. But anyways, I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments. Next up, we have another video here from the news saying they were actually asked to leave, and they've refused to leave campus from these protests in the University of Toronto.
In the response to pro-Palestinian protests on university campuses, there appears to be no movement yet to clear the growing encampments.
This was after the deadline for them to leave.
At the University of Toronto last night, protesters defying the deadline of 10 p.m. last night from university administrators to pack up and go home. As we reported yesterday at this time, protesters set up tents in the campus common very early on Thursday morning. And video from our CBC News drone team last night shows that, in fact, it hasn't gone away. The encampment has grown. You can see as well in the drone video, there are Toronto police vehicles parked near the encampment. Megan Fitzpatrick is beginning our coverage this hour. She is live once again on the campus of U of T to bring us the very latest in what's happening there early this morning. Megan.
Good morning, Heather. Well, they're just waking up now after a night of camping out here at King's College Circle. And I'm told by some of them that were just coming out of the fence that it was a pretty quiet night here. There's about a couple dozen students who spent the night in tents on this grassy area behind me, behind this fence. About 55 tents, I'm told, and some of those tents had multiple people in them. And they say, yeah, it was a pretty quiet night, no issues with security or anything like that. There was that rally last night with a large crowd here outside the fence rallying. We know Toronto police.
I mean, I got to give it to them. That's one hell of a view to protest. Like, you wake up with a tent view. That is Instagram picture perfect. Look, this hasn't been nipped in the butt from the get-go, and this is going to spiral out of control, and it's going to turn into, we're into the weekend. It's going to turn into something that is massive. I'm not talking Freedom Convoy massive, but there is that potential of it just being maybe not international headlines the way Freedom Convoy was, but in terms of just the foot traffic that happens at these protests, into the weekend in Toronto, University of Toronto. It's a beautiful area. It's summertime now. Lots of people are out. I think this is going to get absolutely out of control to the point where the police are going to have only one or two options. Option one is storm it with riot gear the way they did during the Freedom Convoy. Option two is do nothing. There are too many people for this to be contained without an overwhelming amount of police. And they're not just going to show up in regular police constable outfits with their hats and their jackets or in their t-shirts or with bicycles. They're going to have to show up with riot gear because you're going to have thousands, I don't want to say hundreds of thousands, but potentially thousands of freaking people at these protests over the weekend. And I think it's going to be overwhelming. But I'll have to know what you guys think down below in the comments. This is crazy. I never thought Canada would be a hub for ongoing political protests, but that's the world we live in. Whether you want to or not, you can't really avoid politics. Anywhere you go, it's on the news. Anywhere you go, it's on social media. And everywhere you go, when you swipe your card, whether it's a debit, credit, whether you pay cash, shit is way too expensive. So you can run, but you can't hide from politics. That's where we're going to end this video, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between. Love to know what you guys think down below in the comments. On your way out, I'd like to encourage you guys to smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't yet already. And one last thank you to Private Internet Access for sponsoring this video, and we'll see you all in the next one. Bye for now.